So here we are, video number 22, and we're getting further down the rabbit hole. And the movie The Matrix is a good way to describe what's now happening. If you really have been shocked at all the new things and recognize that the way all the things we were previously convinced to believe have all been part of a satanic deception, then yeah, you've now taken the red pill and you're seeing that things are very new and different. And so are you glad you took the red pill and not the blue one, and you decided to make the journey down the rabbit hole? I'm going to read some scriptures later that should give you some comfort that the audience that's continuing to follow me down the rabbit hole should enjoy. That you're still here examining what's really happening. So I've told you a lot of things that might be shocking, especially if you join this video series further down the rabbit hole and didn't start at video number 1. So in the last video, video 21, I told you some things that might have completely shocked you and rattled your bones. And yeah, when I say rattle your bones, I'm making reference to a scripture in Ezekiel chapter 37. So you should probably read that chapter and determine if it's you that these things are happening to. And if you do decide to read Ezekiel chapter 37, it mentions some tribes. So do you see why it's important to know which tribe you belong to? And so far, I haven't noticed anyone answer the question, what tribe do we belong to? And it really doesn't take much effort. So I'm going to assume that most of you figured it out. The other thing was, yeah, there will be someone sitting on a throne during the time of the end, when God's kingdom manifests itself in the final part of the days. So that might be a little harder for some people in the audience to determine. So I'm going to read a scripture now and ask a question that I've never ever heard a Christian ask, but this scripture begs for that question to be asked. And so if you're not even asking the question, how will anyone find the answer? So are you ready for something that might rattle your bones? Stay tuned. I'm going to read an amazing scripture and ask a question. Are you ready? Okay, so this scripture is from Romans chapter 8. The chapter immediately before Romans chapter 9, where it mentions, those not my people, I will call my people, and her who was not beloved, beloved. And in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there they will be called sons of the living God. Okay, so hopefully you've already read the surrounding chapters, especially after hearing Romans chapter 9 verse 25 quoted so many times throughout this video series. And if you did, then did you ask yourself this question after reading Romans chapter 8? So I'll read what the Apostle Paul says here in Romans chapter 8. And I will start in verse 28. Listen very carefully to what the Apostle Paul says here. Now we know that God makes all his works cooperate together for the good of those who love God, those who are the ones called according to his purpose. Because those whom he gave his first recognition, he also foreordained to be patterned after the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. Wow. So, what's the question that I've never heard a Christian ask? Here it is. If Jesus Christ is the firstborn, then who will be the second born? Good question, huh? And until you ask that question, you can never hope to find the answer. And yet the answer is in the book of Revelation. Did you find it? Who is the one that sits on a throne? One of those 12 thrones of the tribes of Israel during the Lord's day, when God's kingdom is manifest like a mustard grain. Good question, huh? And I don't hear anyone asking it. But right here in Romans chapter 8, it begs to have that question asked. So, yeah, you should read the book of Revelation and understand that there will be a second born during the Lord's day, the final part of the days. And he sits on a throne, one of the 12 thrones. But until you ask the question, you won't even think to look. So how's that? Did it rattle your bones? Pretty interesting, huh? So now I'd like to talk about something that should give you some comfort. So here it is. It's in Luke chapter 12. I'll start in verse 49. It's something Jesus Christ was really looking forward to happening. Listen carefully to this, what he said. I came to start a fire on the earth, and what more is there for me to wish if it has already been lighted? Indeed, I have a baptism with which to be baptized, and how I'm being distressed until it's finished. Do you imagine that I came to give peace on the earth? No, indeed, I tell you, but rather division. For from now on, from when? From the time the fire is lit. Oh, I'll keep reading. Here we go. For from now on, there will be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against her mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And so now if you look around the whole world at what's happening, there's convincing evidences that what Jesus Christ said here, what he said he was looking forward to happening, is really happening. And you can find those convincing evidences very easily. Just go to YouTube. There's thousands and thousands of videos, all with the exact same story. People being hated, excluded by reason of God's name, persecuted and reproached. All of them. And it's being done in such a systematic and very unique way. And that unique way is indeed a religious one. So, are there convincing evidences that it's really happening? That what Jesus Christ was wishing would happen is now actually happening? Well, the alternative to that is to think that it's just a cult, nothing important happening. So if you're coming to the conclusion that, oh boy, maybe it really is happening because I can see the evidences, they've been in front of my face all this time, and now I'm waking up, I'm awake. Jesus Christ really did come like a thief. So, and I imagine that if you've been following along in this video series, you've made that decision already in your mind that, yeah, maybe it's not a cult. Maybe the entire rest of the ex-Jehovah's Witness community who insist on saying, oh, it's just a cult, maybe they're just not awake yet. Even though they say they are, they've woken up to, some corruption, and they're recognizing all the injustices and pointing fingers at the men who are leading, ruling those people who are being treated so poorly. Yeah. And realizing that, what Jesus Christ said would happen. His kingdom would become completely infested with Satan's weeds is likely what it is. And it's not just a cult. So here's what Jesus Christ went on to say, because he told this to a large crowd of people, that his intention was to light a fire. So look what he then went on to say. Listen very carefully to this part. And it continues in Luke chapter 12, verse 54, right here. Then he went on to say to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in western parts, at once you say, a storm is coming. And it turns out so. And when you see that a south wind is blowing, you say, there will be a heat wave. And it occurs. Hypocrites, you know how to examine the outward appearance of earth and sky, but how is it you do not know how to examine this particular time? So, how does my audience get comfort from that? Well, here you are, going down the rabbit hole, carefully examining this particular time. So, the comfort you can get is that according to Jesus Christ, you're not a hypocrite. That's really comforting, don't you think? That you've invested time and have hopefully watched now at least 21 videos to examine if all these things are true, and coming to the realization that, hey, hold on, everything I believed before, that, oh, it's just a cult, a bunch of evil men that want to steal your money. You coming to the realization that, yeah, there really is convincing evidences now that I can see all around the world that what Jesus Christ said would happen is really happening, and I'm spending time examining it. I'm not a hypocrite. So you are waking up. If you are coming to the conclusion that Jesus Christ really did come as a thief and separate these families and take people away and leave some behind, you are awake. So do you want to go backwards and be ensnared and caught and broken now? Back to the ex-Jehovah's Witness community and tell everyone else that, oh, it's just a cult, nothing important happening here? Or do you want to stay awake and go down the rabbit hole and continue examining this particular time? So, did you get comfort from that? Here you are. You're not hypocrites. And Jesus Christ here is recognizing that, no, you're not the hypocrites. The people who dust it off and say, oh, nothing important happening here, and they don't want to invest the time to examine this, they're the hypocrites. They are going backwards, being ensnared, caught, and broken. They didn't take the red pill. So hopefully my audience can get comfort from that. Because I certainly do. I intend to thoroughly examine what's happening here because it's intensely, profoundly important. So one of the sentiments I get from watching thousands of EXJW videos now is that many of them feel like they are being treated as a dead person by their own families, by their mothers or fathers, sons or daughters, their in-laws, their wives, but they've been killed off. They're being excluded, reproached, and persecuted, and their names cast out as wicked. Their character is being assassinated, killed off. And if you're like me and have watched many of those EXJW videos, that's definitely a sentiment that many of them will tell you in all of their very similar stories, that they're now shunned, treated as if they're actually dead. So I'm going to read something from Ezekiel chapter 37, okay, and see if you can relate now to what it says. I'm going to start a little further down in the chapter and start in verse 11. Listen carefully and see if it sounds like you. And he went on to say to me, Son of man, as regard these bones, they are the whole house of Israel. Here they are saying, our bones have become dry, and our hope has perished. We have been severed off to ourselves. Therefore prophesy, and you must say to them, this is what the Sovereign Lord Jehovah says. here I am opening up your burial places, and I will bring you up and out of your burial places, O my people. Remember what it said in Romans chapter 9? Those not my people, I will call my people. Okay, back to Ezekiel chapter 37. I will bring you up out of your burial places, O my people, and bring you in upon the soil of Israel. And you will have to know that I am Jehovah when I open your burial places and when I bring you up out of your burial places, O my people. Can you relate to that? So now I'll go back a little in Ezekiel chapter 37. I'll start in verse 7 this time. And I prophesied just as I had been commanded, and a sound began to occur. As soon as I prophesied, and here there was a rattling, and bones began to approach, bone to its bone. And I saw and look upon them sinews themselves, and flesh itself came up, and skin began to be overlaid upon them. But as regards breath, there was none in them. And he went on to say to me, prophesy to the wind, prophesy, O Son of Man. And you must say to the wind, this is what the Sovereign Lord Jehovah has said. From the four winds come in, O wind, and blow upon these killed people, that they may come to life. So, do you see what's happening here? Little by little, command upon command, measuring line upon measuring line, the killed people slowly come to life. But it mentions the house of Israel here. So, do you see why it's very important to determine which tribe you belong to? Because anyone entering into God's kingdom will have to belong to a tribe. Which one is it? I still haven't heard anyone answer the question. And by the way, who is it that comes to life? I'll finish the video with the scripture I read in the last video. This is from Matthew chapter 19, and I'll read again from verse 27. Then Peter said to him in reply, look, we have left all things and followed you. What actually will there be for us? Jesus said to them, truly I say to you, in the rebirth, when the Son of Man sits down upon his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also yourselves sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone that has left houses, or brothers, or sisters, or father, or mother, or children, or lands for my sake, will receive many times more, and will inherit everlasting life. So, will the four winds blow upon these killed people? and they are the ones that will come to life. Everlasting life. So now, here's another thing you could do is take this scripture where it talks about 12 tribes of Israel and then this group of people here. Everyone that has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother. So Jesus Christ is mentioning 12 tribes and then this other group of people. So now go back and read Revelation chapter 7 again, where he mentions 12 tribes and this other group of people. What tribe do they belong to? It's an important question. And are they the house of Israel? Okay. Video 23 is the next one.